Well, life is about to get even more expensive for South African motorists and consumers as fuel prices go up yet again. The Energy Department announced petrol will increase by 54 cents a litre from Wednesday. I'm now joined by AA spokesperson Leighton Beard, who joins us on the line for some reaction. Leighton, good morning to you. Is this the trend? This is the fourth hike in 1 year.
Yeah, good morning to you, Corley. I mean, it certainly doesn't come as great news. When we look at the increases that we've had over the past couple of months, they really have tallied up quite significantly. We started the year paying around 14 Rand litre for fuel, and we're already up to around, with this increase that comes into effect on Wednesday, 16 Rand 67 or thereabouts, depending on where you are. So a quite significant increase over the past couple of months, and I'm sure a lot of South Africans are going to be looking at this and going, well, where do I cut my budget to accommodate this? So from our point of view, absolutely ominous news, and it really does, I think, come as a blow to many consumers.
Leighton, that's the question I wanted to ask you next, as to how in the world do we try to absorb this? How do consumers cope better with this, with these increases?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Corley. We would always advise people, make sure that you budget properly for your fuel expenses. We know that people rely very heavily on transport. So obviously it's very critical that you have enough money to cover yourself for the month. That may mean having to relook at your budget and to cut those expenses that you feel you may be able to cut. Not a lot of people have luxuries. But if you do, that may be one place to start, and then obviously you'll have to minimize on other expenses. You may have to look at some alternative forms of transport. You may want to look into carpooling. You may want to look at leaving earlier or later for work and the same in the afternoon to avoid that stop-start traffic. So there are a few things that you can do. I mean, the perennial favorite, and I know it won't work for a lot of people, but if you are able to walk to a destination instead of using a vehicle or public transport, that may be an option for you. But there will have to be some creative thinking in terms of how people will manage their budgets going forward.
What about fuel consumption, Leighton? I know you're very good at advising how we can save petrol by just how we drive.
Yeah, if you consider, Corley, for instance, on your election bus that you were on recently, if you stuck to the speed limit, if your driver kept his foot on the pedal at a very even pace, if he managed to keep a steady speed throughout, he would be using certainly the right amount of fuel. He wouldn't be using more than, for instance, if he was quite heavy on the pedals and braking very suddenly and speeding and maybe even towing another vehicle like a trailer or a caravan even. So there are some ways that you can save on fuel. At the end of the day, though, you're paying 16 Rand 67 a litre for fuel. It is going to eat into your budget. You can find ways to maybe save a little bit of fuel in the habits that you have in terms of driving, but at the end of the day, that bill is still going to rack up, I'm afraid.
All right, that's AA's Leighton Beard. Thank you very much for that quick reaction there. On to this particular story now. Let's